King. Sweet. Oh, that looks like we did a manual override because I have the little thing that says custom live streaming service. Oh, yeah. Alrighty. I'm just gonna switch over to my camera. Don't worry, at some point we'll actually have like opening music as well, but all I got right now is an opening slate. And that's okay. That is because we're gonna make it work. Uh, Wait a minute. I had my opening spiel too. Haha. There we are. Hi, happy Friday, and welcome back. This is now day 4 of Mental Health Awareness Month. And in celebration, we're having biscuits with bosses. Um, yes, this is a live broadcast podcast where we get to know leaders in the film and television industry over a spot of tea. In fact, yeah, my spot of tea comes with a bit of Wonder Woman today. And then, of course, we give ourselves a chance to dive a little deeper to ponder how can we elevate the future of filmmaking. Now, I'm your host, Rockin' Casual Friday, as you can tell with my leather jacket. Kay Ross, writer, producer, founder of Owl Echo Entertainment. Joining me today is, drumroll please, filmmaker, producer, co-founder of the Dark Red Film Festival out of New Mexico. One of my new favorite friends, Tabitha McDonald. Everybody, welcome, Tabitha.
Thank you. I'm
All
also
right.
enjoying tea today, so that's
I
exciting.
was gonna say, show me that tea. What kind of tea how do you take it?
Man, I have an endless love for tea, so I don't know that I have a favorite, but today I'm doing like a lavender chamomile. I'm always like a two tea bag person though. So
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm like really proud of this mug that I have. It says, "Look at you
Look at
producing
you.
films and shit." I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I need the reminder, you know?
Yeah, man. I love that. Like a little co-pilot.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And 2 bags.
Yes.
Feel like that says everything you need to know. Chamomile for calming, but double the
Double
strength.
the strength. But I also go the other direction with like the caffeinated ones. It's like, okay, Earl Grey, like let's do 2 or 3 bags on that too. I like it to be potent. Yeah.
Man, Earl Grey, that's strong stuff too.
Yeah.
Whew.
I think Earl Grey is my
Uh,
favorite caffeinated tea. So
mm.
I think we'll say that today.
All right, mental note. I feel like you've got some like Captain Picard energy going on. That's actually how I found out about Earl Grey. I was like, I wonder what that tastes like. Ugh. It's
It's it's not for everyone.
it is not for everyone. Great admiration for people who can drink it. It's
Yeah.
totally not my thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my default is Irish breakfast, which is just like a
Classic.
hair off from British breakfast.
Yeah.
It's a little more floral.
Yes.
Um, and so it is my favorite. Uh, and I don't ever really put two and two together that it has caffeine until
Hmm.
I try to drink it at night. And then I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh.
no. No, it's not the ideal scenario.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So you've got your tea. I
Hmm.
love the mug, by the way.
Thank you.
If you were to have a little treat with your tea, what's
Mm.
your like your top 3 tea treats?
My top 3 tea treats. I feel like toast and jam, though it's classic, is like a go-to. It's like I love a good sourdough toast with strawberry jam.
Mm.
Um, I'm a bread person, even though I like actually rarely eat bread. I dearly love bread, like dearly. My second pick would probably be like a croissant, depending on what tea. If I was doing like an Earl
Ooh.
Grey tea, I would do an almond croissant because I feel like that goes really well together. But just love a croissant in general. Um, yeah, what would my third one be? Maybe just like a good like shortbread cookie because
Mm.
cookies kind of go with any kind of tea. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Proper tea biscuit. Love it.
Yes. Yes. I love
Uh,
shortbread.
for the record,
Hmm.
whenever you come back, you like come out to LA again, we're gonna have a croissant off.
Love it. I'm all in. You didn't have to say anything else.
Say less. Um, and I love when people have that preference because there are so many places in LA. You'd think with
Mhm.
everybody who is trying to have like a very focused diet, I'm gonna call it that,
Yeah.
that there would be less pastry places. Nah,
We're all
there are
secretly eating the pastries, though.
all the pastries.
We're just not telling people we're eating the pastries.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, or as Alana, she's the rugby player during
Uh-huh.
the Olympics that like blew up.
Yeah.
And I love her and I adore her. And I love
Yes.
when she shows what she eats, including, yeah, I'm gonna have carbs. I'm an athlete.
You have
I
to
have
have
to have
carbs to be
carbs.
an athlete. Amen. But
Oh
yeah, croissant
man.
off. I'm all about it. Like bread, butter, like come on.
Right. Uh, especially
Yeah.
the almond. Great choice.
Yes.
Great choice.
Thank you.
Uh, I won't mention that I absolutely have a bit of sourdough and jam with me right now. So when you said that, I
Yes.
was like, yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Speak my
but
language.
right. Do you have a favorite like flavor jam? Because that is also a
Mm.
point of contention for some people.
I'm like my go-to is strawberry just because you can always find strawberry. It's delicious. It's better than grape. I know. Don't come at me. Like grape is meh. um
Don't come at me.
there are like very strong opinions on like strawberry versus grape for some reason. I don't know. I really love like fig preserves though. Like you can't find them very often, but I do love like
Ooh,
a fig preserve on like a sourdough or a rye. Like, come on. Yeah.
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, if you get a chance, so what
Mm.
I'm having is strawberry, because you're right, really great classic. And
Yeah.
I don't even think there is a competition with grape. Grape is fine.
Yeah.
I just think it's meant for when you're a child because it
Yes.
feels it just no flavor, just sweet, you
Yeah.
know?
It's just sugar.
It's just sugar. Um, but Trader Joe's actually makes a really great low sugar strawberry preserve,
Ooh.
which I adore because then it's more about the strawberry flavor and
Yeah,
less
and you
about the
got the
sugar.
texture. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's good stuff.
love that.
Um, cheers to Trader Joe's. Totally not sponsoring this episode, but still,
But if they want
thanks for being here.
to.
Look, I'm always open to sponsorships. Feel free to drop us information at info@alecho. We're open. uh, before you pull out the deck, I did want a proper, uh, I'm gonna call it Ted Lasso-esque getting to know you question because I'm always down to talk food and tea, like at all times, pretty much. Um, and I know kind of pre-show we started talking about like we're both come from a production background, and it's so easy in production to actually get to know people during your break because when you stop and get food, when you stop and get drinks, like it's just kind of a natural progression.
Yep.
Um, but I feel like we often talk about food and don't talk about a lot else. So, in the spirit of Ted Lasso, first concert, best concert.
First concert, best concert. First concert that I like recall, and I think I mostly recall it because I just like went by myself as like an adult. And like, you don't really go to concerts by yourself, or at least people don't think about that. But my first concert was Shiny Toy Guns in Oklahoma City, like 2008, maybe. Was a blast. You can go to a Shiny Toy Guns concert and not have to be with people because everybody's just dancing and it's great. Um, Last concert and like honestly, like the best concert I think I've ever been to was Queens of the Stone Age came through Albuquerque last summer, and my
Ooh.
God, mind-blowing show. Like just like rock at its like purest form. Like so good. It's like I think the key to a really great concert is like really charismatic person on stage, whether the music is like great or not. But like you put charisma and great music. It's like, yeah, that's a show. I'm like, man, I really want to see them again, but I also like don't want to be disappointed the second time I see them, you know? So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
literally had to look them up because I'm like, it sounds familiar. I
yeah,
couldn't put a finger on it, and then I was
yeah,
like, oh, yes.
yeah.
Um, all right, looking that up after this and rocking out to it today.
Yes,
Um,
it's a vibe.
right? Wait, Oklahoma City? Are you originally from Oklahoma?
Yeah, I'm originally from Oklahoma. Left there, moved to North Carolina in 2014, and then moved to Albuquerque in 2022. So
Oh, right on.
yeah,
Oh, North Carolina. I got memories
yeah,
from there.
yeah. Hope they're positive.
For the most part, I mean, because people in the DC area often go to North Carolina for like their beach weekends. So
Sure,
everybody who's leaving
makes
right now for
sense.
Memorial Day,
Yeah,
probably heading to Sunset Beach,
yeah,
um, or Nag's Head or something.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, for the most part.
yeah.
Uh, oh, okay. See, the problem is that I've answered this with other people before, so I have to remember what my first concert was. Otherwise, I'll be called a liar. I'm pretty sure my first concert was the Beach Boys with my mother
Oh, I
at
love
like
that.
King's Dominion. Um, I think she was trying to like soft break me in to be like, concerts are fun. There's no
Yes,
need to go wild.
yes.
Um, and we
Beach
all
Boys,
are,
though. Wow, that's
right?
iconic. Love that.
Oh, girl. It, I mean, the thing is that I sympathize because I think in those instances, everybody who goes knows all the songs,
Hmm.
which in one way is really, really great. And another way is really terrible because if you want to play anything else, no one is interested.
Yeah, that is
So,
fair.
right?
Yeah,
Um, so I was grateful for the opportunity, but also like it could have just been a giant jukebox. I'm not sure I would have been able to tell the difference at 12
yeah.
years old. Um, I waver back and forth on my favorite, just because I have seen Aretha Franklin live. She was
Mm.
there for a Smithsonian celebration. I have seen Erica Badu live, when she was in Maryland last. Um, I have seen John Williams live,
It's sick.
and I may have openly wept. Um,
That's acceptable.
right?
Yeah.
And like Hans Zimmer live,
Nice.
which, right? Anytime, especially if you're in the industry and you really
Yeah.
like, um, soundtracks, which I
Yes.
definitely do, it's so energetic to hear it being played live.
Are you going to Future
Um,
Ruins? Are you buying tickets for this?
no, what is this?
Okay. So, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are putting together like a 1 day, 3 stage composer focused like festival in November. And I mean, oh my God, it's got like some of the best. It has Danny Elfman, it has John Carpenter, it has like Hilder. I don't know how you say her last name. Like, there's so many. I'm like, I literally have a tab on my computer right now. I'm like, should I buy tickets? Should I spend the money on the tickets? Like, I really like, do I have the money to spend on the tickets? But like, I feel like I need this. So yeah, if you are a fan of the scores and soundtracks and things, like, it seems like it might be amazing.
What's the name again?
Future Ruins.
Future.
Like,
Oh,
I
that's
just
gonna
bought
be.
Nine Inch Nails tickets, or I would be buying tickets for this, like, without a doubt. But
Oh
um,
my God. Have you
like, the
seen the
lineup's
the
insane.
trailer?
Yeah, I know.
Because the moment you said Nine Inch Nails, I was like,
I know.
girl.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
so full disclosure, I actually really enjoy Tron Legacy, but not because of the film. The film is just an excuse for the soundtrack. The
Yeah. I mean,
soundtrack is
it's
amazing.
just a vehicle for the music. It's fine.
So excited for the next Tron movie with Nine Inch Nails or
I mean,
no?
I think I have to be because I'm like such a huge fan of their music. I'm like, I can go and just vibe. It's fine. Like, I don't know. The trailer is a little questionable, if I'm being honest, from like a filmmaking perspective, but we'll see. You know,
Oh
trailers are
man.
liars sometimes.
Oh man. Yes, agreed. Trailers are liars sometimes.
Yeah.
And like sometimes all the time.
Yeah. Most of the time, for sure.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Um, all right. I will dig into my beautiful deck of random getting to know you questions. I
Mhm.
was like pulling from my actually curious deck, which if you're unfamiliar, Actually Curious is actually just this little card deck. And they have all different kinds, but this is the original. And as part of the card deck, you have different color questions. And the colors kind of coordinate to their intensity. So we start with blue, move on to green, can move on to yellow, and then of course pink at the end for something really deep dive. But as a getting to know you, I usually like to stick to either blue or green. Tabitha, since you are our special guest today, I leave you the choice. Would you like to wade in the shallow pool of blue or go a little deeper with green?
Oh, let's do green. Why not?
Yes. I always knew you were a brave soul.
And bravery is questionable, but I just, you know, like
Well, I
making a
mean, you were,
decision.
but that's again, kudos, truly kudos that you're like doing the thing. Like your mug is reminding you that you're like doing really awesome
Yeah.
stuff. And you just showed why you were able to do that awesome stuff, right? You made a choice,
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to make a choice.
right? So 1 through 5, which number would you like?
Two.
2 it is. All right. It says, what cultural or moral values do you hold in high regard and why?
Oof.
Right?
Did I go in too deep? What, what cultural or moral values do you hold in high regard? Hmm. It's a tougher one for like someone that like takes a minute to process sometimes.
Hmm.
Um,
And I feel
okay.
like as you're processing,
Yes.
because one of the things that I've recognized as we've done this format a few times now is that in traditional podcasts, we usually dive straight into like, tell me about your origin story, right?
Right.
Um, and I feel like when we do our victory round next, that's kind of what I would like to hear is like, tell us a little bit about what it is you do, how you got here, and then that gives us context for your victory. And the victory is usually just like within this past week or even the last couple of days, because sometimes I can't remember what happened on Monday when we're talking on Friday. So just to give you the ability to kind of on ramp that
Mhm.
answer, you can also talk a little bit about what it is you do, or
Sure.
how it is you got here. And it may actually kind of lead you into, oh, maybe I do value that thing.
Well, I feel like I talk about my values with my therapist a lot, so this should be an easy question. And yet
Cheers
here
to
I am.
therapists.
Yes, cheers to therapy. Um, but like I do think like I find myself immediately thinking like, okay, like what are my values like within my work? Because I am constantly like immersed in my work, for better or for worse. And something that's like been coming up for me a lot lately within that I do think is like very strongly tied to my values is like having compassion and having grace for people with where they're at. Like I think that's a big piece of what I'm striving for as far as like what I'm putting out into the world, but also like if we're going to be in this industry in a sustainable way, like you kind of have to give yourself grace and give other people grace. And so that's a big one that's like on my mind a lot lately. And did it, I don't remember exactly how the question was framed, but did it give a specific like number or was it just
Mm-mm.
generally speaking? Okay.
It just says, what cultural or moral
Mm-hmm.
values do you hold in high regard and why?
Mm-hmm. And then like one that comes up for my husband and I a lot on film sets specifically is gratitude. Is like
Mm.
even just like the smallest like thank you for handing me that C-stand arm or thank you for printing my script or what like whatever that like tiny little thing is like you could just like take it and go. But like saying thank you and like having that like tiny moment of gratitude like
Mm.
changes the energy exchange between you and whomever. And if you are
Yeah.
keeping that going, then the set will innately be better. Yeah, like on a film that we worked on in March, which feels like both 10 years ago and yesterday all at the same time. It was like that was a big piece of kind of what we wanted to incorporate into the set culture. And we, to the point that we even did have a couple of days where we'd had a really hard overnight the day before. And so we like started the
Mm.
day off with like gratitude during our safety meetings and like just like open forum, like no pressure if you don't have anything, but like it just kind of put people back in like a space of ease. It's like, oh, right. Like I'm grateful to be creating. I'm grateful to whatever it is. So gratitude is like a big one. Gratitude and grace slash sometimes compassion. I don't think that they're exactly interchangeable, but I think that they're both words that are pretty present with me these days.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely hope. In fact, let's put that in the chat right now. Gratitude and grace. What a great
Yeah.
approach. Especially with your safety meeting. I think that's so important. Um, it's just without naming names or going into specific situations, but
Yeah.
like I've definitely been on sets where people are like, "Oh, we don't need to have a safety meeting," and I'm like, "Y'all, no, no. If I'm here
You
and I have any
gotta.
power, it's gonna happen."
Well, it's like the safety meeting is about safety and it's about the schedule for the day and whatever, but it's also like truly sets the tone for the day. So like if
Yeah.
someone comes in like hot and heavy, like that is the vibe that's going to reverberate through
Yes.
the team. So it's like, come in with something that is going to set a positive tone. It doesn't have to be as in-depth as like opening the table for like sharing gratitude. Like I think, that doesn't always work with a team, right? But like just coming in with that safety meeting and setting a tone is super valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of vibes coordinator as a role?
No, but I feel like I'm into that and, might need that for my life.
I'm gonna open that question to all. So if you're listening and you know anything about a vibes coordinator or you want to know more, like what are your questions about vibes coordinator? Leave them in the chat below. I would love to know. Um,
Yeah.
my introduction to them was this past April when we did AwesomeCon, and more than a few in the credits had vibes coordinator. And I was
Love
like,
that.
I mean, do they have a guild? What is this?
Canada, like, yeah.
What are your qualifications? Is there a certification program? Sign me up. Um, but so we started looking it up, and it's basically someone who is on set that anyone can go and talk to if something bothers them. So it's like on-set HR, which is incredible when you consider
Whew.
in
On-set
the
HR, I feel like
past.
that's a lot. Like there's like so many like anti-HR things about film that I'm like constantly battling. So love that.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, especially since part of our pre-live chat kind of tipped into that whole, hey, we come from a production backgrounds, and these things that we kind of take for granted that come naturally as part of production do not exist in development.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the one advantage of development is that because development can be run like a business, you do have the advantage of having something that looks like a HR. But by the time that train is in full speed in production, you have no time for it.
Yep.
You have no time for it. Um, anyway, so I say that between the gratitude circle as part of your safety meeting, which is just a fabulous idea, and the vibes coordinator, like I feel like that HR is
Mm-hmm.
coming into the production space, which I'm
Yeah.
not mad at.
No, not mad at that at all. Like, yeah, well, thinking about development and like, I mean, development is prep, right? And then you're saying what you said is like by the time you get to production, you're like full steam. You don't have time for that. You don't have time to figure out HR and what that looks like. And like, I think
Yeah.
something that's like really important to me in the indie space, because I feel like we have kind of the flexibility to do it however we want, is like using prep to kind of like set a tone for like how you're going into production. Like which prep is different than development, but like it's all kind of one line like downhill, like picking up speed in theory. um, but something that we did on the film in March was as part of our prep and like part of our production meetings as we were like getting into things was having kind of a guideline and like a framework for how do we operate our sets, and like what are our communication like roles, and like how do we want to handle communication, positive, negative, etc. And I think you and I talked about this when we met a while back about like this filmmaking framework that one of my friends put together as part of Justice Film Collective. And I brought her on to our film in March to second AD and do this to like bring the framework in, and like what we like a big part of the framework that we took away for this film specifically was like communication and like emotional regulation, and like how do we incorporate the language around those things in production from like the very first like full team meeting. And then that like started with a slideshow and just like, hey, like take a look, and then like we'll circle back next week just like at the top of our prep meetings, and then just like incorporating it in as we went. So yeah, like it can be done. It's
Yeah.
like we can
No, I
build
love
in
it.
our own like HR, whether that's like titled HR or vibes coordinator, which I also feel like Andy is like our second AD. But it's like you can like build those things in and like actually create something really awesome and fulfilling and sustainable. I went on a tangent, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
no, I love the tangent. Um, I feel like just because you mentioned it, do you mind telling us a little bit about your Justice Film Collective?
Yeah. So I play a very small role in it, but it was formed by a very dear friend of mine, and they're a writer and director, and their thesis was kind of on like sustainable filmmaking and ethical filmmaking, and like what that looks like. And so a lot of what we're doing is spearheaded by Andy's work in film, whether that's like coming in during prep and being like, hey, let's like establish some guidelines for how we want to navigate some of the things that like just are going to happen, right? Like there's going to be friction, there's going to be communication issues, there's going to be all sorts of things. Um, so that's kind of been like how we've been engaging in film lately is like, okay, we have this giant framework that is like has multiple facets from like personal safety to like individual identity recognition to communication. Like there's lots of different facets, but like how do we take just like a piece of it and apply it to one project and like develop that piece and like figure out what's working, and then come back and like the next film, can we bring in more things, and like using it like that. So yeah, it's Andy, myself, Julia, who is also a writer director based in LA, Victoria Prescott, who's a wardrobe person in LA. And we just are, constantly trying to like take this framework and like find ways to implement it in small spaces in the indie world. And hopefully through that, the things that people like see and learn, they take that into the next production they're on, whatever role they're in. And I think systematic change is like generational. It's not something that happens overnight. Like it does take a lot of time. But if we're all putting these little pieces in and just keep reinforcing it, then it does create something positive in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
But you
love
should have
that.
Andy on, by the way. You should have Andy on this. Andy is
Uh,
amazing.
Sold. Send them my way.
Okay.
No, I adore this idea that in a way you're allowing your projects to become case studies
Yeah.
so that you can then reflect on not just the process that you implemented, but the effectiveness of that process so
Yeah.
that there's the ability to change that process.
That's
Um,
been huge. Yeah, because
right?
I think we tried to implement too many pieces of the framework like all at
Mm,
once on a previous film. And it's like, oh, like we kind of like lost the message. Like we kind of lost because it was just too much. So now it's like, okay, taking the things that did work and then how do we like reapply and just keep building it out in a format that's like we can systematically like put in place as we
yeah.
move forward. So yeah.
I love it. And I particularly love it because it feels like it's gonna sound terrible. It feels like a corporate structure in that because my partner works in marketing,
Mhm.
and when you have to deliver on time, under budget, yada yada yada,
Yeah.
um, that part of what it forces you to do is know your process just as well as you know your product.
Sure.
Um, and I think sometimes the request of, especially in film, where there's just this huge grind,
Mhm.
as opposed to television where you're allowed to kind of pace yourself out. That the grind demands the project at the end result justify everything else. Um, and the truth is that I think most companies that are trying to get films, plural, made, they have to take a little bit of extra time to figure out what their process is so that they're
Mhm.
not burning out their creatives on the way to the next project.
Amen.
Um, you know what I mean? So I love that you're focusing on the process because it helps everyone win.
Yes.
Um, but you know what? Not even a victory round, but still a hearty cheers. Truly.
Cheers.
Mm. Before I forget, because it's
Mm.
only fair, what cultural or moral values do you hold in high regard and why? I think mine tend to default to curiosity, which is why I think what you brought was so just wonderful, is because it allowed me to sink my curiosity teeth into it. Like, oh, tell me more. That
Yeah.
sounds really cool. But the other end of that is responsibility,
Mm.
um, which is its own little double-edged sword because um, I have a hard time working with people who do not take personal responsibility.
That one
And
should be
yet,
maybe higher on my list. Same.
um, yeah, yeah. But on the flip side of that, recognizing that, I was on a management track and that leadership does come naturally to me. And that's not like a humble brag, that's just
No,
fully
it's just true.
recognizing,
Some of us are geared for it and some of us are not.
right.
Yeah.
And part of it's because I'm much like other indie producers, that default comes from when something is not happening, we take the reins and make it happen. And at some point, someone goes, I can do that. And you're like, oh, great, here.
Yeah.
Like, I will happily delegate it to you.
Yeah.
But in the absence of people to delegate it to, it will simply get done.
Yes.
Um, so I appreciate people who take responsibility because it allows me to relinquish responsibility.
Yes.
And yet I can fully recognize that there have been, things that have come up in my past where I'm like, that was not easy for me to take
Yeah.
responsibility for. But knowing that it's of value to me, um, it made it easier for me to do the hard thing because I want to show up for other people the way that they have shown up for me.
Mhm.
Um, and the way that I hope that they will continue to show up for me. Um, so for example, apologizing is really hard, but that is
Yes.
absolutely part of taking responsibility.
It is. It
Um,
sometimes is the hardest thing, but you have to, and this comes back to grace. It's like you have to hope that the other person on the receiving side of that has a little grace. And then you also have to have grace for yourself and be like, like, hey, like I'm doing my best here and just own it. Like accountability,
yeah,
responsibility, like pivotal in this industry, in life,
right.
actually, just life.
It reminds me of that. Have you ever seen the films that made us on Netflix?
Mm-mm. I know of
Oh,
it
it's such
though.
a great
Yeah.
series. Uh, my Home Alone by far one of my favorites. But if you go back and watch the Aliens one
Okay.
with James Cameron, because it was
Hmm.
his big breakout,
Yeah.
directorial debut, um, and because he was working with a British crew, and a lot of people were super mad at him because he was right the grind, and
Yeah.
the American filmmaking grind is way different than the British grind,
Yeah.
including but not limited to they take tea
Very
and have a
specific
proper tea
way.
time. Yes. Um, oh, potential spam, please go away. Thank you so much.
I love
I turned
potential
off my
spam.
phone, right? um, Clearly it just needed to make its way through, but me too. No,
Yeah.
stop. Um, but the thing that quelled the mutiny basically
Yeah.
was having him apologize and just be like, look, I'm under a lot of pressure. I'm sorry to have put that pressure onto you. Yeah, like, but it relieved a lot of the tension he was feeling, or that the crew was feeling.
Yeah.
So it's amazing the power of taking responsibility, even if it's just after the fact.
Hmm.
Um, all right, we're gonna do one final green.
Okay.
1 through 5.
Let's do 4.
Number 4 into the pile. And I'll take this one just to switch us off. What's the most important thing that was omitted from your education growing up? Girl,
I have an immediate answer for that, but go.
if you want the immediate one, because I could go on and on and on about that one.
Yeah.
Go,
The list is
I
long.
relinquish the floor to the guest because this is I again, I could go on, but I want to hear your version.
Well, my immediate like gut reaction was like actual budgeting. Like actual budgeting would have like changed my life. But oh man, the things that were omitted from, yeah, wow. Oh, we could also talk about like historical things that were omitted that could have also changed many things of how I like, entered into the world as an adult, and maybe made it easier if I'd known, or maybe not easier, but like I don't know, awareness, right? Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, but man, the budgeting thing, oof. I'm curious what your immediate answer is versus like the long laundry list. Because I'm like, I have a laundry list, but like, where do I even start?
Well, allow me to say that the two jumping off points are psychology
Oh,
and statistics. I took AP psychology in junior year, so clearly it was
yeah,
not required,
yeah,
but good golly, should it be?
yeah,
And I call it a jumping off point because a course I took in college, in community college, mind you, was the psychology of human sexuality. So for all of the health and sciences classes we take as part of physical education, which I don't even know if they teach it that way anymore,
yeah. I
who
have no
knows?
idea.
But in the 90s, it was very
Yes.
important that you learned about, at the time we called it STDs, now they call it STIs, because the physical things were the most important. But we completely skirted around any of the mental
Yes.
health
Yep.
or emotional health that is connected to intimacy
Yeah.
of any form,
Yes.
including expression. And the reason for me that that would have been really important to have earlier is because you don't know your mind as well as you know your heart, and your heart can be really misleading. And if you
Mhm.
have any opportunity to know your mind better at a time where you feel like you're losing your mind because of all the hormones going through your body, it's really helpful, really informative.
Well, like one of the things that would be top of my list would be like some like I don't know if emotional regulation would be quite right, but like something in that world because like acknowledging feelings and
Yep.
feelings are okay and being
Yep.
able to talk about feelings as a thing that happens
Yeah.
like would have been game changing like
Yeah.
for me, but just like for like my entire generation, like I don't know. um
Yep.
yeah, like incorporating that in any form or fashion, like starting in elementary school would have been like wow,
Yeah.
just wow. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of times now, like as an adult, a lot of us struggle with like building community and building like friendships and things like that. It's like because we don't have the tools or we are just now developing the tools as adults
Yeah.
because we weren't given any sort of framework for a skill set in that as children. So yeah.
Unless you were damaged.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I had pretty regular group counseling in elementary school because my parents had separated and then divorced. And
Yeah.
so we literally had group sessions to talk about our feelings
Hmm.
because we were at risk
Sure.
categorically. Um,
I,
which is also absurd
yeah,
because
that's wild on its own right, but
it's wild in its own right that you're
yeah.
putting mental health into like the physical health category, which is let's wait until there are symptoms before we give people the
Yeah.
platform, the tools to cope. What?
Yeah.
Um, if your first symptom is a heart attack, or in this case, like a school shooting, then maybe we don't wait for the symptoms, y'all.
Yeah. Amen.
Whew.
Amen.
And I think the parallel there is that even within your company, when you say things about like, we're going to have a kickoff meeting that includes a presentation that helps to clarify the channels of communication so that whether you have, something good or something difficult to discuss, you know who to go to. That's huge, right? Because you're kind of building the system that you never had growing up as part of the onboarding of your own project, your own company. So I see the full circle there. Well done. Statistics was the other class where it was
Yeah.
like it was available to me at a higher level. Not everybody, mind you, but because by the time it was available as an AP course, I was a very prideful young person. And I thought because my peers were taking calculus, that meant I was not good enough if I was not also taking calculus.
Hmm.
And then after my first semester was like, fuck this.
I think I had a similar response, but yeah.
Yeah. And good golly, why? I mean, the same way that civics should be a required course, why is statistics not a required effing course?
I
Because
mean, it's
we
more relevant
utilize
than
that
some of the
information.
other stuff that we were
Yeah.
forced to take. I'm like, I would use stats way
Yes.
more than I use like trigonometry. Like
Yep.
I don't use trigonometry on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
stats, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that does go hand in hand with, finance and accounting. Like
Yes.
that should be a two-parter, right? Start your day with accounting
Yep.
or start the first semester with accounting, move into finance, which is theoretical money as opposed to actual money.
Yes.
um, and that way, whether you run a business or you use that information for yourself, you're still prepared to handle money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it applies from like just like the personal level of an individual all the way to like whatever business. I mean, yeah, it's insane. I don't understand why it's not like core or it wasn't. I don't know
Yeah.
where we're at now with education. Like, I hope it's in a better spot, but I'm like not super optimistic. So,
I did not learn about contingencies in my
oh,
own personal finance
yep,
until I learned about it with production management in film school.
yeah, same actually, same.
Yeah,
It's kind of important.
it's kind of important. Um,
Yeah.
and I have to say, I'm honored that even though it was for a short period of time, when I used to teach film and television production to teenagers, that and teens always have a question born from I'm not learning things that I can use in real life. And I'm like, it's okay. And I'm not saying it as a dismissive. I'm saying
Yeah.
I understand. So ask me your question because just because this is the subject I teach doesn't mean I can't offer you some value outside of that. Um, so things would come up like, how do we submit our taxes? I was like, first off, don't let anybody tell you that it's difficult. You can read and follow directions. And if you can read and follow directions, you can submit your taxes. Full
Yes.
stop.
Yes.
Um, and I was like, and honestly, that's not even a difficult thing, provided you have a normal job where they take taxes out. It's only
Yes.
when you become a contractor or run a business things get tricky.
Also, a thing I
Um,
learned the hard way is the 1099 life.
Girl, yes. Yes. Mm.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a natural segue into tell me a little something about a victory that you may want to claim from this past week. And for those of you who are
Mhm.
unfamiliar, Victory Round was born during the lockdown because, and being in the industry, because sometimes we don't always see what's of value that we provide. And the only way to build on the good things that we're doing is to first recognize them. It's always easy to see the critical things and to harp on those. And, that's human. We're not going to eradicate that part of our psyche anytime soon. But what we can do is help each other recognize what we're doing well and lift that part up. So I'm here for you, man. I'm here
Mhm.
for you. Tell me something you did this past week that even if nobody else saw it, you were really proud you got it done.
Um, this is going to sound like, I don't know, it's going to say a lot about like where I am right now as a person. But I
I love
just
it.
like went and had tea with a friend just to have tea with a friend, just
Aw.
because. And that's kind of a professional and a personal thing because I do tend to like immerse myself in my work to the point that I put those things to the side sometimes too often with my like friendships, and I don't just do it for the sake of the friend. I am like, okay, but like also like what am I achieving with work? But it's also like a work win because I'm like finding more balance with my professional and my personal life and finding better ways to intertwine them so that it's not just work all day, every day, and I'm like forgetting who I am. So yeah. You
Yeah,
now
man.
know infinite amount about me just from that, I'm sure. But
But at the same time, it seems real familiar.
yeah,
No judgment on this
yeah.
person's part. But I do like to end a victory round with a hearty cheers. So cheers to that personal victory for
Hmm.
actually taking time to spend time with people that you like, just
Yes.
because you like them and you wanted to
Yes.
take the time.
Yes. It's
Yeah,
important.
man.
Also, we had a delicious pot of tea. So,
Oh. Do you remember what kind of tea you had?
oh, good. So I actually like I've been racking my brain for the name of it. It was a green tea. It was
Ooh.
something with the name dragon in it. I don't know, but it was at this like really awesome little tea bar called Lost Cultures in Albuquerque, and highly recommend. Like, yeah.
Lost Cultures.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Everything is tea based. They have kombucha, they have tea mocktails, they have tea by the pot, they have like that's just all tea things. So yeah.
if there's any way we can get a link for that in the chat, let's share that because
Yes.
I love spreading info about local places as well. Although it's been a minute since I've been to New Mexico, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll have to stop by just
Yes.
check out the tea.
They also do a
Uh,
plant swap, which is sick because I love plants. So anyway, yeah. So
now I have to visit because I had to push it back, but originally I had planned for the plant swap in April. And that that came from a friend, one of my first friends here in LA,
mhm.
who is a plant mom. You know how other people are like dog moms or cat moms?
Yep.
Plant mom.
Yep.
Like, whoa. I like a whole cabinet just to have the ones that require more humidity.
Those are my goals. I'm not there.
Right? I'm not quite there yet myself, but amazing. And
Mhm.
and that's her like very personalized gift is that she'll take clippings and
Yeah.
let it, root and then it's like, "Oh, thanks for stopping by. Would you like a plant?"
That's
Ah, I
amazing.
love. So
Yes.
nice. Um Now I'm like, wait, what kind of plants do you like? Um I won't lie, it's taken a minute to actually even get a few of them to thrive.
Yeah.
Keeping them alive, not a big deal. Actually seeing them like have a little party, like it's
Yeah.
it's quite fun to like see them like sprawl out and feel like they're
It is. It's very rewarding. So,
yeah, it's very rewarding. It's a good word. That's a good
yeah.
word. All right, so I'm putting away my actually curious deck because I just realized that we moved on to the victory round and I had not put it away yet. But for those of you who are watching, whether recorded or live, we did put the link in the chat for you. But also feel free to answer the questions for yourself. And of course, if you are listening live, we're always here to help you celebrate your victories as well. So if there's something from this past week that you're super proud of, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and we will happily celebrate with you. The only caveat I put to that is try to make sure that when you claim your victory, that it is something that you did, not that something that someone else recognized. So for example, if you won a contest this week, that's great, let us know. Accolades are always worth it. But the thing that we're going to celebrate with you is that you submitted in the first place, right? The thing that we're going to celebrate is that you finished and submitted in the first place because that effort is entirely on you. The result of that, of course, is the accolades, but you have no control of that, right? You absolutely have control over whether or not you got it done. So share your victory. Um, and I love that you chose a personal victory, if I may, Tabitha, because
Yeah.
I often tell people like 8 dimensions of wellness, like there are lots of different kinds of victories that you can claim.
Yeah.
Um, my first thought was, well, since we're doing personal, I absolutely like sucked up my pride and actually went to the walk-in clinic for my foot.
Good
Friday
job.
at school. I know. Thanks. It's such a terrible thing to say, but I know as Americans, we wait until the last minute because it literally feels like a shakedown.
Don't
One,
even get me started on healthcare. That's all I have to say.
fair enough. The
Yeah.
point being, I didn't really want to. I was trying to go through enough of the troubleshooting on my own so that by the time I got to a medical professional, it was more likely that we could actually figure it out in a timely fashion
Yeah.
because I don't want to have to go back. Anyway, so fairly painless, except for my foot, of course.
Yeah.
Glad I went. Currently on the little bottle you see off to the side here is my anti-inflammatory for my foot. So I'm glad I went. That is one personal victory I could claim. I feel like on a professional victory, the thing I did just recently, because I'm in building mode, which is very unusual for me. Like I am a project oriented person. That's why I got into production. That's why I did theater beforehand. Um, and it's part of it is because without an established team, it's hard for me to feel safe to stay, right? Because in theater, what happens is you have the same team in multiple productions, as opposed to film, where you may not have the same team, but you still
Yeah.
have different productions. Um, so the safer way to approach those situations sometimes really is like I'm gonna have this one role where I just come in and do my thing, right? Like casting or pitch decks or whatever. And then
Yeah.
I can easily go, I'm out. um, so building mode for me is really hard. Um, so one of the things I started doing to continue to build what we're doing here within Biscuits with Bosses is actually develop the victory round as a like written um digital asset. um because it's a really great idea. And I want to make sure people actually have the ability to duplicate it in their own lives. Um, and it gives me the ability to both have something for free, which as a business, I need something for free in order to keep the back and forth going. And then also have something that's a paid digital product because I'm sure you know this by now, but like service based anything is a really risky business.
Yep.
If you want to keep your lights on, find a way to sell a product.
Yep.
Full stop. So that's that I literally sat down for hours yesterday to see how because I after years of writing blogs and articles and scripts, of course, like I can crank out 2,000 words in a day pretty easily. Then that's like NaNoWriMo level stuff. Now it depends on what the subject matter is. It may take me a few days to gather enough information to crank out the 2,000 words.
Sure.
But when I sit down and focus, I can crank it out. And I did 2,500 words. I was real proud.
Yeah. You should be proud.
Thanks,
Also,
man.
yeah, building mode is hard, so keep it up. But I understand.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks so much. All right, for the hearty cheers. Mm, thank you for that, though.
Mhm.
If for nothing else, the confirmation that building mode is hard. Building mode is hard.
Yeah.
I think it's the glue that keeps projects together and makes it more than just projects, right? You're actually
Hmm.
in a company now. Um, so to that end, I feel like um because it does say something that you're taking time to actually visit friends and not just network, which I feel like comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like your victory is reflective of something that you're hoping to build on? Um, or in
Yes.
this case, also something that you're doing away with.
Both. Both. Because,
Tell me a
and
little bit about that.
yeah, like as an introvert, I am like, I tend to, as an introvert who's also obsessed with work and uses work as like a coping mechanism for like being alive and
Uh,
some days, like building personal relationships and like maintaining them sometimes falls by the wayside because I put that energy into like, okay, like how am I building the work thing? And like, then I'm just like, ugh, I'm dead.
ah,
Like I need to recharge. And like, even though I might love spending time with someone, like recharging is like, it's a solo thing for me. So like, I don't recharge with other people. Um, so it's kind of a conglomeration of like both like work and emotional and like, yeah, all of it, all of it. I forgot what your question was and I lost my thread.
Oh, just the victory that you claimed about spending time with your
Yeah.
friend. Is that building towards a thing or
Yeah.
like helping to heal a past thing?
It's building towards a better like work-life balance.
Mm.
And like that in turn is healing the part of me that's like been suffering and like shriveling up and not, completely functional because this other thing was taking so much space. So yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yay
And I
for
love,
freelance
go ahead.
life. It's like I feel like when you were, doing everything on your own, it's easy to let one thing outweigh the other and sometimes not in a favorable way. So yeah.
Yes. And sometimes it's hard to even turn that part of your brain off, because
Yeah.
even if every business relationship you enter into is, let's call it honorable for all intents and purposes, because it's
Sure.
never altruistic. It's always like mutually beneficial,
Yeah.
right? But the moment that you move into that arena, it does feel transactional.
Yeah.
And it it's like it sours that part of you that's just like, nah, dog, like I just like the quality time, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like there doesn't need to be any added value beyond that because the quality time is there.
Yeah.
Um,
That is the
and it's
value.
that is the value. Um,
Yes.
as it turns out, so I'm later today am going to be going on an ice cream social with a friend. That is to say, instead of going on a coffee date, we're just going on an ice cream date
Love
because
that. I
sometimes
need
you
to do
just need
that
ice cream,
more.
right?
Yes.
Choose a nice warm day and just be like, ice
Hmm.
cream, please.
Yes.
um, but our friendship literally started because I was moderating a thing she was on. Um, and because I was the point of contact afterwards, I was like, oh my God, let me buy you coffee. You're amazing.
Yeah.
So we finally got together for coffee maybe a year and a half ago. And I was like, full disclosure, I would love for you to be my manager, but I do not actually feel like I'm ready for a manager just yet.
Mm.
So don't feel any pressure. I'm probably not going to bring it up again. But in the meantime, I just think you're cool. Can we go do a thing? Is there a thing we would enjoy doing together?
Yeah.
So we started doing 5Ks. And just
Love
like,
that.
walking and talking basically. Um, and it was safe because it was public and it was safe because it was about the 5K than it was about anything else. I mean,
Yep.
she could still introduce me to people and I could still introduce her to people, but our time together was never about um that, it was never about work. Um or if it was about work, it felt more like water cooler talk,
Yeah.
which was also kind of fun because
Lower
I so
stakes. Yeah.
rarely get it. Yeah, lower
Yeah.
stakes. So I get it. I get it in a real big bad way.
Yeah.
um and it allows for much richer things
Mhm.
like, you know, hey, I'm gonna do, tea and cards on a weekend. Do you want to come and hang? Right? Like, uh the it's almost like it elevates their position in your life.
Yes.
um, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, hearty cheers to that, truly. Um, I feel like I wanna segue into
Hmm.
the I'm going to call it the meat of the meat and potatoes of Biscuits with Bosses, because one of the reasons I specifically wanted you to come onto the show is because when we talked last, I just loved your intentionality behind trying to be there for your crew and trying to be there for really anyone that worked for you so that they could show up as their best in order for you and your project to, deliver your best. Um, anyway, so when you said you were focusing on your own kind of mental health and ensuring your like work life balance, my first thought was like, oh yes, please, because we need you to be at your best so that you can continue to like fight for those battles for other people to have their moment too and their balance. So if you what to whatever level you feel comfortable, like
Mhm.
what has the journey been like as an entrepreneur, um and with all the things that you juggle, like to be there for other people and kind of take accountability for their mental health
Mhm.
and then the cycle of also checking in with your own mental health.
Yeah. Well, it started about 3 years ago. I was like, oh no. I don't know. It's like this constant like ebb and flow and evolution of self-awareness. um, because like yes, that's a part of like my like how I want to be like in my work in film is like I want to be able to, whether it's like solo or with a team, like build spaces where people feel confident and comfortable and safe and like all of the positive adjectives and things, right? Like, like that's what I'm like constantly striving for. But I have found myself at times like putting so much into that and like holding nothing in reserve for myself that I wasn't actually bringing like a full like I wasn't bringing my full capacity to the table. So whether that's like across projects because like maybe I'd taken on too many things and therefore wasn't able to, you know, give within each of those buckets as much as I want to, or like even like for myself, like I'm like, oh wait, like who am I? Who actually am I? So I don't know. It's an ongoing journey that like, I don't feel like I have any sort of answer to at this point, but I'm just like working to build awareness of like, am I giving too much of myself and like
Mm,
not like to other people and not like making space for myself? Because
yeah.
like it's a strange dynamic to be able to like be like put everything into like creating those spaces for other people and then like but like wait wait, oh, I'm over here by myself. Like, and it's like, how does that happen? I'm not like, I haven't really clearly like figured out how to like break that cycle every time. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
so long story short, I don't have any answers or any real clarity on it, except that I'm just like trying to build self-awareness, which I think is a piece of it. So
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of it. Let's reconvene at some point and see if I've made any
Done.
progress.
I love that.
Yeah.
Um, which I feel like naturally goes into the question I wanted to know, which is, girl, how do you balance being both a filmmaker with your own production
Mhm.
company and doing your projects and a freaking film festival? Because, like, first off, I
Yeah.
would love to know, like, is there a conflict of interest of being a production company and running a film festival? I feel like yes, but tell me how you keep those divided, and then
Yeah.
how do you keep those plates spinning? Because oh my God.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's been easy because it's like, yeah, they both take up a lot of space, right? I mean, the film festival, like people think of a film festival as like a once a year event that may have some like, ancillary things throughout the year, but it's like a once a year thing. But like I am working on it all year. Like I'm like building sponsorships. I'm like making sure that like we have a judge panel to like watch all of the films that are coming in. And like I'm like coordinating the event side of it. And like there's just so much that yeah, like even 6 months out, like I'm like it's almost a full-time job in its own
Oh,
right.
I
So
bet.
thankfully I have a partner to share that with. Um, but then like balancing that with the production side of things, which like as far as the two like coexisting, there hasn't been any like direct conflict of interest between the two as far as like what kind of work I'm doing because a lot of the things that I like focus on in production are not related in any way, shape, or form to the type of things that like we focus on with the film festival. But
Mm,
time wise, it definitely stretches me a little thin, just because they're both very large endeavors. So
mm,
yeah, I mean,
mm,
the film festival is like an ongoing conversation of like, how do we bring more people from the community in to help support it? Because the first 3 years of it, it's been just myself and my husband and like our social media manager, like behind like the nuts and bolts of it. I mean, like we bring on like a judging panel and things like that, but those are like kind of like little pockets and they don't support the like actual like creation and event side of it. They're just to like make sure that like we have quality control. So yeah. Like this year, we're bringing on like people to help with sponsorship coordination, and we're expanding our social media team a little bit. So that's like an like more evenly balanced. But again, that kind of like learning by making mistakes and like realizing like, oh, this isn't working anymore. Like I don't have any energy left. So yeah.
Yeah. Wait, no, I'm curious
Mhm.
how did you decide, all right, I'm gonna start a film festival? Like, how did that come about?
Kind of like that. No. So when we moved to Albuquerque, we were kind of in the midst of a festival circuit with one of our short films that my husband and I created together. And like, I mean, as someone, you've probably gone to a lot of festivals too. They're not all created equal. Like some are really, really awesome, and some are like, oh God, why did I spend money to come here? This is not helpful to me in any way, shape, or form. Thanks for the laurel.
Yeah.
Like, and what we were finding is that the festivals that we were like most excited about were the ones that had like really strong in-person components of like, oh, like I'm meeting people, and like the festival directors are like really engaged in creating community and so on and so forth. So like that was something we were like, oh, we like really like that aspect of it. Wouldn't that be cool? But like it wasn't an action item. It was just like one of those passing thoughts as two very entrepreneurial people. Just like that'd be cool, but like not right now, sort of thing. And we like when we moved to Albuquerque, we met with the Albuquerque film liaison, and she had done her research before the meeting. Good job for her. And she was like, "Oh, you guys are like into horror, and like you guys are horror people." And we're like, "I mean, yeah, kind of. Like it's definitely like where we're living in this current moment." And she was like, "Well, have you thought about doing some sort of like horror focused event, or like there was a horror festival, like but like there isn't anymore. Like, would you guys be interested in something like that?" And we both kind of like walked away from the meeting being like, "Huh, well, that could be interesting." Um, and we're like, well, if it's horror, it needs to happen in October. And this was in July, like late July. Like, could we put together like some sort of event or horror festival-esque thing, in that amount of time? So we started reaching out to people that we'd met in the festival circuit and be like, hey, like, is this something that you guys would be interested in seeing or being a part of in Albuquerque? And it was a pretty strong yes. So we're like, okay, well, we have a couple of months. Let's like see if we can put this together. So we literally just like opened up submissions on Film Freeway. They were like $5 a pop or something like really small. And we're like, but it'll be enough money for us to like support renting a theater space and so on and so forth. And like literally for the next like 2.5 months, we just like put everything into creating this event. And like, I mean, as newbies in Albuquerque, it was like kind of a risk, which I don't think we fully processed. That like, oh, we're coming into this town where we know no one, and we're trying
Mm.
to like bring people together. Okay, that seems crazy. But we did really well with our first event, which was a 2-day event. We had a couple of sold out screenings. We had like way more submissions than we ever expected. And so we're like, okay, like, can we do this again? And then we did. And so we've done 3-day events for the last 2 years. And we'll do a 3-day event this coming year. But yeah, it was literally just like this like wild thought of like, maybe we could do that. I don't know. Be a good way to meet some people, I guess. So yeah, I
Hilarious.
don't recommend actually putting together a festival and that short of a turnaround for anyone that knows anything about event planning. It's actually really difficult. But we did do it the first time. And then we're like, oh, now we have a year. That makes more sense. So
Uh,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If for nothing else, the event planning itself, I would be like, nah, y'all can get it done in that time. That's not the issue. The issue
Yeah.
is the marketing
Yeah.
and the submissions
It's like
and
building a quality program and then like letting people know you have a quality program. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
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 That's insane.
Yeah. We put a lot
But
into it.
kudos. Yeah. Oh, I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
But hey, I love that you pulled it off. I love that the success of pulling it off the first time encouraged you to do it the next time.
Yeah.
And now it's an engine, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Um, oof, that just I love every part of that story, including but not limited to data, right? I love that the beginning of it was 2 plus 2, right? I see
Hmm.
what you already do and I see the need in our area. Would you be willing to fill that need? Like
Yeah.
that's so incredible. So if
Thanks.
ever there was a lesson to be learned, ladies and germs, like please check in with your film commission, see what they
Hmm.
need. Like
Yeah, like what are
make
people looking
friends,
for? It's they will give you information. So
right? Right? Ah,
yeah.
I love that. One mental note for later, reach out to. Um, and I think along those lines, get creative outside of that because the film commission, I think, is a really good way to start.
Hmm.
Sometimes there are other associations locally that you don't know about that work with that film commission that you can also reach
Yes.
out to. Um, for me, when I first started, the Women in Film and Television in DC was my go-to. That's literally how I got my first job was because they have a list serve. So if someone needs something, they'll send that email kind of to the main hub, and then that email gets sent out to everybody else. Um, so it's much more direct than, let's say, a job posting.
Yeah.
Anyway, all that being said, there are always really great organizations. Make sure you take advantage of it. Um,
Yes. Do the research. You'll find some gems out there for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Cheers to that. Um, I did want to ask because I know you've got several projects going on,
Mhm.
those things that are keeping you busy. With our last few minutes, tell us a little bit about the projects you've got going on that are taking up the other part of your time other than this film festival.
The other part of my time. Yeah, so the film festival for sure. I have a film that's actually about to premiere in LA and New York.
Ooh.
Uh, I don't remember the dates exactly, but I can we will put those in the chat. It's called Sunlight. It's written and directed by and starring Nina Conti, who is a fantastic comedian and ventriloquist. So if you want to see a wild comedy with a monkey as the lead, I highly recommend. So yeah, it's going to be in New York and LA in a couple weeks, I think. So that's happening. I was producer on that. And then I have two films in post production. One is called Whistle Downwind, which is a queer drama that takes place in North Carolina. And we just sent out some test screeners to a few people to just start that process, but hopefully we will have everything wrapped by the end of the summer. I have a film called The Virgins, which is a like modern folk horror that is also in post production. So that is slated to be wrapped up in September and move into the festival circuit, etc. Um, I have a graphic novel that is not film related that is starting production right now. The illustrator is like putting together character concepts right now, which is so exciting. And then we're gonna start like actually like mapping things out in a couple weeks. That's based
Yes.
on a screenplay of my husband Mason's called Decomposer, that we both have just kind of had this inkling for a while that it feels like it would also be a really great graphic novel. So we just decided to just like dive in. But we have a really great team behind that. So we're working with an illustrator based out of Edinburgh named Ollie Jones, who makes like just incredible artwork. And then a couple of other folks for the creative direction of it. So that's happening. And then I'm in production on a documentary about landrace chili in New Mexico. So New Mexico is the land of chili peppers, in case you didn't know. And I'm working on a documentary with director Armand Cole called Through the Desert, and we're in production on that this summer. It's about chili peppers that are indigenously grown chilies, and there's different varieties, and they're starting to go extinct due to a lot of different factors, everything from farmers and generational transition of younger farmers not taking over to the current water crisis of the area. So yeah, that's a
Wow.
really interesting documentary. I'm really excited to be a part of. But, yeah,
Yeah, man.
so I'm
Oh,
busy.
that's incredible. Yeah. Yeah, you are. You know what? I love that the graphic novel is part of your lineup though, because I have
Yeah,
been singing its praises forever, which is that if you are looking for other ways to sustainably um, kind of keep the engine going of your production company, find a way to have a lower level entry of your original work, which can include comic book, graphic novel.
yes.
Um,
Which I
you
didn't
know,
even put those two things together at first. I was just like, oh, I just really feel like I love graphic novels. Like the shelf behind me, like I have a whole collection of graphic novels. And I was just like, this is just like such a visual story. And like, I don't want to like wait until I get all the financing together for this to see it. Like, I want it to come to life
yeah,
now. So, how do we do that? But,
yeah,
yeah.
man.
But yes, it is
Okay,
a great entry point.
proper geek out to wrap us up
Yes.
because now that you've said you love comic books and you can pull from any like film, television,
Mm-hmm.
comic book, but what are you obsessed with right now?
Whew. What am I obsessed with right now? Um, well, all things graphic novel because I'm doing a lot of research. No, but
Fair.
like content that I'm like taking in. I just finished watching a show called The Winning Time, which is like just changed my life. Like I just really wish there was a third season of that. And like, wow, what fantastic filmmaking. It was so
Are
good. So
you
good.
referring to HBO's
Yeah.
Winning
I
Time?
know I'm like way behind on it. It came out a few years ago. And I was like so upset. Like literally after the first episode, I was like, please, God, no. This can't just be two seasons.
Oh,
um,
girl. And then the way they ended the second season because of the writer's strike, I
I
was
know.
so mad. And you know
I
what? I
know.
should have said something. I really should have. I saw it because LA, right?
Yeah.
On Mother's
Yeah.
Day, in fact, at my local garden center, I saw John C. Riley, and I almost walked up to him and just be like, "Look, I know I don't have influence like you do, but you tell me what I need to do to get that show
Truly.
another season
Like
because
it's what
I'm there."
I like, oh my God, it's everything I want to do in film. Like it was just so good. Also, if you like basketball, you'll like it. Like it's fun. So yeah, I just finished that and kind of mildly obsessed, as you can see.
No, look, I'm gonna second that and like all the underscores, if for nothing else, because I was fascinated. It was so well done in the first couple of episodes that I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I I feel it. I feel the draw. I can see that you're doing something great. I don't understand the editing yet, but I'm here
yeah,
for it. And
yeah,
then I
because
got
it
to
was
episode
working.
3 because it was
Yeah,
working. Yeah,
yeah,
because I think that is the mark of a good a well-trained filmmaker is like
hmm,
I it doesn't even matter if I understand it or even if I like it, but if I get it, right? If
yeah,
I'm feeling what you're asking me to feel,
yes,
then I'm just going to go on the ride, right? And at
yes,
some point I'm going to understand more. Episode 3 I understood more because on
yeah,
episode 3 you hear the coach talk about the difference between previous basketball as it was played and
yes.
comparing it to classical music and the way that he wants his players to play and comparing it to jazz. And I was like, "Oh,
I
that was
know.
it.
I
That was what I
know.
was missing, which was the editing style, the even the
Yes.
cinematography style, because it switches between different um like
It's like there's film, there's
camera languages.
digital, there's like all
Uh,
these, yeah, all these things that don't actually go together, but they are making them like work in a
they're
way
making it
that's like,
work.
wow. Yeah.
And it was literally like the filmmakers were playing jazz. And I was like,
Yeah.
ding, of course. I get it now. Go.
Yep.
Play on, maestro.
Play
Like
on indeed. Yeah.
uh
Also, I'm a huge fan of Nicholas Bertel and like his music for that is just amazing. Like, wow.
yeah, man.
Yeah. Um, what else am I like really into right now? Disco Elysium, which is a video game. It's like my favorite
You
game
gotta
of all
bring that.
time, but yeah, just actually obsessed with it. Even though there's been some tumultuous times with the companies behind it, but I highly recommend giving it a play if you're into video games at all. So, yeah.
Interesting. Disco Elysium?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That is wild.
Yeah. It's
And this is
I don't even know where to begin, but it's amazing. I think it's a masterpiece. So, yeah. Yeah.
uh and to be fair, that one's going to take me longer because usually with video games, I'm more likely to watch replays than I am to actually play the game
Sure.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm a recovering Age of Empires player.
Okay.
It's really hard for me to play it now, knowing that as I cross over into somebody else's territory and trying to take over their land, that I'm like
Yeah.
basically stoking a colonial
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
And
No,
I'm
I
like, nope,
understand. I understand.
that won't work. Um,
I will
but
say Disco Elysium's like really accessible no matter what like kind of game player you are because it is like very much focused on the narrative side of it.
mm,
So I recommend playing it on a console rather than PC. I don't know if PC actually has like the narration now or not,
mm,
but for a while the narration was only on the console. So it's like an
hmm,
immersive story more than
yeah,
like traditional video game. So yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
I
But I
think I'm
can
gonna put that on
replay
my
it over and
bucket
over.
list.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
So good.
Um, I feel like I want to find something else to obsess over because I've been obsessing over The Residence on Netflix,
Okay.
which
Haven't
it's it, I literally, because I had some free time
yeah.
because separation of work life,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm gonna use this to watch something that I'm probably never gonna watch with anybody else
Yeah.
because I love the lead actress and I'll watch her in anything, and I did.
Yeah, she is amazing. Yeah,
I love
I do love
her.
her too. So,
Uzo Aduba, if you do
mhm.
not know her from Orange is the New Black, watch her immediately.
Hasn't she
There's a
like been on
reason.
Broadway and stuff too? Like, isn't she
Oh
like a
yeah. Oh
multi-talented
yeah.
lady? Yeah. Anyway.
Uh, which I think is the other reason it was really exciting to see her in The Residence
Hmm.
because she's also has worked in my hometown area of Washington, D.C., which includes
Nice.
the Helen Hayes Awards, which again, it tends to get overshadowed by the New York scene, which totally makes sense. Broadway is what it is.
Yep.
But the close second to a lot of what goes on in New York is in DC. And I used to work in those theaters that
Yeah.
foster those names. So to see her kind of find her moment is just so great. It's so great.
Yeah.
Highly recommend The Residents, if for nothing else, because um jazz. If you
Love
also
jazz.
like that tone and that
Yeah.
tenor, I think it's such a great backbone to this whodunit, very classic whodunit. And if I may, it has a really encouraging message at the end,
Okay.
without giving too much away, but it has a really encouraging message.
On my list.
Um, all right. I feel like I've stolen enough of your time. Um, if you had any parting words for anyone in the
Mhm.
industry, especially for mental health awareness, any final words of wisdom or advice that you would give to those listening?
Oof. Um, words of wisdom. I have like kind of two sides to that. It's like don't forget about yourself in the process. It's like,
Mm.
cultivate community outside of film. I think that's actually kind of important. Um, and then something that I think you and I were talking about before we actually jumped on is like opening doors and like not taking it as ill will if nothing comes of that immediately or like there's not another conversation, etc. That's like just like let it exist without taking it personally or feeling like there's anything there. Just like open the door and just like it'll be there when you need it. It'll be there when it's supposed to be there. And I think that like moving through the film world with that mentality has been really beneficial to me. It's like I'm able to build more friendships and connections and just like be there when someone needs me and they need to come back to that door or vice versa. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ah, I love that. Cheers to that as a parting word, and right before Memorial Day weekend, mind you. So hopefully it's
Yeah.
also really great advice right before having some time off.
Amen.
Cheers, my friends. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Mhm.
It's always so great to talk to you, so uplifting. And I do hope that we get to do it again. But again, to your point, even if we don't for another little while,
Yeah,
that's okay because I still hold you right here. So,
same, same.
aw,
Thanks for doing this. This is great.
yeah, man. All right. For those of you who are listening and you are hoping to join us next week, we'll be joined by Stephanie Moore, producer, but also the founder of Gemini Tech. She actually started an app that is specifically built for those who are in production. So for those of you who already do your scheduling and your budgeting, but you need a way to quickly communicate with your crew, based on your yep, my brain has completely shut down. Um, that thing that you send people, call sheet. Whew.
All sheets.
Basically, call sheets, yeah. She's developed an app that helps to keep everybody together during production in a much cleaner way, which is so exciting to hear more about how people are finding, especially in the indie space, are finding a way to kind of create infrastructures so that we can continue being successful. So stay tuned. We'll see you next Friday with Stephanie Moore. And yeah, keep having a day. Bye, hun.
Bye.
And just fair warning, just because breaking character for a moment. The only way I know to stop the live is also to stop the Zoom. So when everything goes, just know that everything will go at the same time.